Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to read another interesting chapter prescribed in your syllabus, Footprints Without Feet. It's written by H.G. Wells. Before we understand the story, let's know something about the author. Herbert George Wells was an English writer, prolific in many genres. He wrote dozens of novels, short stories, and works of social commentary, history, satire, biography, and autobiography. His work also included two books on recreational war games. Wells is now best remembered for his science fiction novels and is often called the father of science fiction, along with Jules Verne and the publisher Hugo Gernsback. Before we proceed, I have a question for you. Can a man become invisible? It seems quite difficult. And the story that we are going to read is of a scientist who discovers how to make himself invisible. Does he use or misuse his discovery? That is what the story is all about. So, the story is about an eccentric scientist named Griffin who discovers the rare chemicals which can make a man invisible, but at the same time, the man can be touched and felt physically. So let's read the story and find out how he uses or misuses his powers for his own. The scientist Griffin had been discovering ways which could make a man invisible, and finally he succeeded in that. He discovered some rare drugs. He finally swallowed those drugs that made him invisible. He was first noticed by two boys in staircase of a house where they could just see his footsteps and started following it. They follow it until the footsteps are fainter and cannot be seen. First, as he is feeling cold, he enters a mall for some warmth. After the stores shut down, he decides to wear some warm clothes and eat something. There he unboxes a few cloths and wears them. Then from the kitchen of a restaurant, he eats cold meat and some coffee. Later, he goes to a grocery store and eats sweets and drinks wine. He then falls asleep on a pile of quilts. He then wakes up in the morning when some of the store assistants had seen him and started chasing him. He quickly threw away all the clothes he was wearing and became invisible again. Then he started roaming around again without any clothes in the cold winters of London. There he decides to steal clothes from a theatre company as he knew he would get something there to cover his face as well. There he steals bandages for his face, dark glasses, false nose, and a hat for covering himself. Because he doesn't want to get trapped. He also hits the shopkeeper and steals all his money. Soon he realizes that London is too crowded to live like this and it can be risky also. he can be trapped this way. So he decides that he would go to a remote village where no one would be able to find about him or trace him. So he books 2 rooms at an inn at the Epping village. He reaches there, and it is strange for the people of Epping that a stranger with such a weird appearance has come to stay at an inn during the winter season. Once his money is over, he steals from people and also hits the landlord and his wife when they try to check his room in his absence. Then the village constable is asked for help, but before that, Mrs. Hall, the wife of the landlord, asks him questions regarding who he is and what he did to her furniture. This makes him really furious, and he decides to show her who he really is. The people then see a headless man, and Mr. Jaffers, the constable, also finds out that he would have to arrest a man who does not have a head. They are unable to catch Griffin as he removes all his clothes and becomes invisible. He even knocks out Jaffers as he tries to catch him. And that is how the story comes to an end. So if we look at the theme of this chapter, it's quite clear. One should not misuse science and its great discoveries, as this can turn even a brilliant scientist into a threatening, lawless person. In the story, it is Griffin, a scientist, who misuses his great discovery and becomes a threat to society. So it's like misusing your powers. If you're blessed with something, you should always make the best use of it. And if you don't do that, you become a threat to everyone around. So, the message of the chapter is quite clear. We read about Griffin, who degenerated himself into a lawless person. So, this lesson gives a message that misuse of science and its great discoveries can make even a brilliant scientist like Griffin a monster and a threatening, lawless person. So, we should always make the best use of our abilities and powers so that we can be of some use to the society around. So, that was all about this story. Thank you so much for watching.